Imagine walking into a room full of strangers. You feel the tension in your shoulders, the quiet hum of conversations around you, and the slight anxiety of not knowing who to approach first. Within just a few seconds, your brain is already scanning the room, looking for cues, smiles, gestures, posture, that tell you who might be friendly, who might be distant, and who you can trust. This instinct is as old as humanity itself, and yet, in our modern world, we rarely stop to notice how powerful it is. The truth is simple. Human connection is not built solely on what we say. It's built on something deeper, something silent, something hidden between the words. Every glance, every shift of the body, every subtle expression communicates volumes about who we are and how we feel toward one another. And when you know how to read these signals, or better yet, when you learn how to send them with intention, you hold a kind of invisible key. That key can unlock doors to trust, influence, and genuine connection. The like switch isn't just about making friends or learning tricks to get people to like you. It's about understanding the psychology of human behavior, the silent codes of influence that shape our relationships, and the unspoken language that governs attraction, trust, and persuasion. Think about this for a moment. In every interaction you've ever had, from job interviews to first dates, from negotiating with colleagues to comforting a friend, success didn't depend only on what you said. It depended on how the other person felt in your presence. Did they feel understood? Did they feel safe? Did they feel that you were genuinely interested in them? These are the questions that determine the strength of human bonds. Pause and ask yourself, when was the last time someone made you feel truly seen? What did they do differently? Was it their words, or was it something more subtle, like the warmth in their smile, the steadiness of their eye contact, or the calm tone in their voice? In the chapters ahead, we'll explore the hidden principles that make people naturally gravitate towards some individuals while pulling away from others. We'll look at the science of nonverbal cues, the psychology of persuasion, and the art of creating instant rapport. You'll discover why first impressions are so powerful, how to build trust quickly, and how to influence people without manipulation, but with authenticity. This book is written not just to inform you, but to guide you. Like a personal journey where each story, each principle, and each reflection will bring you closer to mastering the invisible forces that shape human relationships. And because this is designed for you, the listener, I'll invite you along the way to pause, reflect, and even practice these principles in your own life. So as you listen, don't just absorb the ideas, try them, test them. Notice how even small shifts like how you greet someone, how you position your body, or how you listen can dramatically change the outcome of an interaction. And one more thing. Because this is also created for YouTube, I'll occasionally ask you to join the conversation. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video if the ideas resonate with you, and subscribe for more insights on psychology and human connection. Your reflections not only deepen your own learning, they also inspire others who are on the same journey. By the end of this book, you'll understand how to switch on the power of likability in any situation. More importantly, you'll carry with you the confidence to connect authentically, influence positively, and leave behind a lasting impression wherever you go. Now, let's begin our journey together, starting with the silent language of human connection. Chapter 1. The silent language of human connection. The first time I met Daniel, he didn't say a single word before I knew we'd become friends. He walked into the cafe where we were both waiting for a meeting, caught my eye across the room, and smiled. Not one of those polite, half-hearted smiles people give out of obligation, but a genuine one, the kind that lifts the eyes and softens the face. He didn't rush over, didn't force conversation. Instead, he simply nodded, pulled out a chair, and sat in a way that made the space around him feel welcoming. By the time we started talking, I already felt like I knew him. What happened in that short, silent exchange was more powerful than anything words could have accomplished. It was a transmission of warmth, trust, and openness, all communicated in less than 5 seconds. This is the silent language of human connection, and it's happening around you all the time, whether you notice it or not. Pause and ask yourself, how often do you pay attention to what people's bodies are saying, rather than just their words? When you walk into a room, are you aware of how you're being read before you even speak? Psychologists have long studied the role of nonverbal communication. Research suggests that up to 90% of what we say is not spoken out loud. Our tone of voice, facial expressions, gestures, posture, and even the way we use space carry more weight than the words themselves. Think about that for a moment. People aren't just listening to you, they're constantly watching you. And they're deciding, often subconsciously, whether to trust you, respect you, or connect with you based on what they see. Consider a job interview. You can rehearse perfect answers, memorize company facts, and polish your resume until it shines. But the moment you walk into the room, the hiring manager notices how you enter. Do you stand tall with relaxed shoulders and a steady gaze? Or do you shrink into yourself, avoiding eye contact, fumbling with your hands? Before the first question is asked, they already have an impression one that can shape the entire conversation. Or think about a first date. Words can flow effortlessly, but if the other person feels you're distracted, closed off, or insincere, the connection won't last. Conversely, even in moments of silence, a simple touch of the hand, leaning in attentively, or laughing with genuine warmth can say far more than clever lines ever could. This silent language is not a trick. It's not about manipulating others or pretending to be someone you're not. It's about becoming aware of what you're already communicating and choosing to align it with your true intentions. When your nonverbal signals match the authenticity of your words, people feel safe with you. And when people feel safe, they open up. Pause and ask yourself, when you meet someone new, what's the first message your body sends before you even speak? Does it say, I'm open, I'm approachable, I see you? Or does it send signals of disinterest, distraction, or tension without you even realizing it? One of the simplest yet most powerful cues is eye contact. Too little and you appear distant. Too much and you risk coming across as intimidating. But the right balance, a steady, relaxed gaze tells the other person, I'm here with you. Combine that with a genuine smile and you've already built the foundation of trust. Another key element is posture. Picture two people in a conversation. One sits with arms crossed tightly, shoulders hunched, feet angled away. The other sits open, leaning slightly forward with arms resting comfortably by their side. Which one would you feel more comfortable opening up to? The body speaks louder than words, and it often speaks first. Think about this for a moment. Every day, you're either building bridges or erecting walls through your body language. A small shift in how you sit, stand, or move can change the outcome of an interaction. In professional settings, this can mean the difference between sealing a deal or losing credibility. In personal relationships, it can mean deepening intimacy or creating distance. Imagine listening to your partner tell a story while scrolling through your phone. Even if you say, I'm listening, your body language screams otherwise. Now imagine putting the phone down, leaning in and nodding as they speak. Without uttering a word, you've communicated love, presence, and validation. Pause and ask yourself, what walls might you be unconsciously building with your nonverbal signals? And what bridges could you begin to create instead? The beauty of the silent language is that it can be learned, practiced, and refined. You don't need to become a master actor or memorize rigid gestures. Start small. Smile more genuinely. Practice open posture. Hold eye contact a second longer than you normally would. Notice how people respond when your body aligns with your intention to connect. Over time, these small adjustments compound. They create a presence, a magnetic quality that draws people to you without effort. You'll find that conversations flow more easily, people confide in you more often, and trust builds naturally. And here's the real magic. Once you start tuning into others' nonverbal cues, you'll see the world differently. You'll notice the subtle glance of someone across the room, the tension in a colleague's jaw, or the relief in a friend's shoulders when you show genuine care. You'll stop just hearing people and start truly seeing them. Share your thoughts in the comments, like this video if this idea resonates with you, and subscribe for more insights on human psychology and connection. Your experiences with body language might just inspire someone else on their own journey of growth. The silent language of human connection is the foundation. But how do we use it to create lasting impressions from the very first moment we meet someone? That's where we're headed next. Because first impressions aren't just important, they're unforgettable. Chapter 2. First impressions that last. They say you never get a second chance to make a first impression, and science backs that up. In fact, research shows that people form lasting opinions about us in as little as 7 seconds. Imagine that. Before you've even had a chance to explain who you are, what you value, or why you're worth knowing, someone has already made a decision. Friendly or unfriendly. Trustworthy or suspicious. Confident or insecure. Let me tell you a story. A few years ago, a young man named Aaron walked into a networking event. He was bright, talented, and full of ambition. But when he entered the room, his shoulders were slouched, his gaze darted nervously around, and his handshake was limp. Within moments, people assumed he lacked confidence. They didn't take him seriously, not because of what he said, but because of how he carried himself. It took him months to rebuild those first impressions, and some people never change their minds. Now compare that with Michelle, who entered the same kind of room differently. She stood tall, shoulders relaxed but confident, and greeted people with a warm smile and a firm, steady handshake. She asked genuine questions, listened intently, and laughed easily. Within minutes, people felt drawn to her. They trusted her, admired her, and wanted to work with her. Nothing about her resume had changed in those first few seconds, but the impression she created set the stage for every interaction afterward. Think about this for a moment. Every time you meet someone new, you're writing a story in their mind about who you are. The beginning of that story. The first impression is the part people remember most vividly. And once that narrative is written, it's incredibly difficult to rewrite. Pause and ask yourself, how do you show up when you first meet someone? What story does your body language, tone of voice, and presence tell before you even speak a full sentence? Psychologists call this phenomenon thin slicing. Our brain's ability to make quick judgments about people based on limited information. It's a survival instinct, rooted in our evolutionary past. Our ancestors needed to decide in seconds whether a stranger was a friend or foe. That instinct still operates today, whether you're meeting your boss, a date, or even the cashier at the grocery store. The good news is that you can shape these impressions. You don't have to leave them to chance. By becoming intentional about your first moments, you can signal warmth, competence, and trustworthiness right from the start. Let's break it down. The first element is appearance. This doesn't mean expensive clothes or flawless grooming. It means showing that you care about yourself and the interaction. Cleanliness, posture, and a style that reflects who you are go a long way in creating a positive first glance. The second element is energy. People feel your energy before they process your words. If you walk into a room weighed down by stress, people sense it. If you bring openness, curiosity, and calm confidence, they sense that too. Michelle from earlier radiated approachable energy and people leaned toward her as a result. The third element is engagement. Something as simple as greeting people by name, offering a genuine smile, and listening without distraction can leave a mark far deeper than clever words ever could. The message becomes, "You matter. I see you." You. That's unforgettable. Pause and ask yourself, when was the last time someone made you feel important within the first minute of meeting them? What did they do differently, and how might you bring that same presence to your own interactions? First impressions don't just affect personal relationships, they can alter careers. Studies show that job interviewers often make decisions within the first few minutes, spending the rest of the conversation unconsciously looking for evidence to support their initial judgment. A confident entrance, a warm greeting, and attentive presence could very well tip the balance in your favor. Think about dating. A first date isn't really about the words exchanged. It's about how someone feels in your presence. Do they feel comfortable, valued, safe? Or do they feel judged, dismissed, or invisible? That first emotional imprint often dictates whether there will be a second date. But here's something even more fascinating. First impressions work both ways. While you're busy shaping how others see you, your brain is also scanning, judging, and forming impressions about them. This mutual process sets the tone for whether a relationship flourishes, fizzles, or fades. So how do you master first impressions? Start with awareness. Practice entering rooms with intentional posture, steady breath, and an open smile. Notice how people respond. Experiment with small adjustments, like holding eye contact just a little longer, speaking a little slower, or leaning in slightly as you greet someone. Over time, these choices compound into a powerful presence. People will remember not just what you said, but how you made them feel in those crucial first seconds. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever had a first impression of someone that turned out to be completely wrong? Like this video if this resonates with you, and subscribe for more insights on psychology and human connection. First impressions open the door. But what happens once you're inside? How do you move beyond that initial spark into something deeper, more lasting? In the next chapter, we'll explore the building blocks of trust, the glue that transforms first meetings into meaningful relationships. Chapter 3. The building blocks of trust. Trust is like oxygen in human relationships. You don't notice it when it's there, but the moment it's gone, everything suffocates. Friendships collapse, partnerships dissolve, and even the strongest bonds begin to fray without it. Yet, despite how essential it is, trust is fragile, built slowly, sometimes over years, and broken in an instant. I remember a story of two colleagues, Sarah and Jonathan. Sarah was brilliant, dedicated, and always on top of her work. Jonathan, her manager, admired her talent, but often questioned her reliability. Why? Because twice, in moments of stress, Sarah had promised to deliver something and missed the deadline. Though she delivered excellent work most of the time, those two moments planted seeds of doubt. Jonathan began checking up on her more often, offering fewer opportunities and trusting her less. It wasn't her skills that failed her, it was the trust between them. Pause and ask yourself, when you think about the people you trust most, what makes them stand out? Is it their intelligence, their charm, or is it something deeper, like their consistency, honesty, and care? Psychologists describe trust as a blend of three essential ingredients: competence, reliability, and benevolence. Competence is the ability to do what you say you can do. Reliability is the consistency of following through on your promises. Benevolence is the belief that you genuinely care about the other person's well-being. Remove any one of these pillars and trust begins to crumble. Think about this for a moment. You may know someone highly competent, but if they don't care about you, can you truly trust them? Or someone deeply kind but unreliable, do you place important responsibilities in their hands? Trust requires the full trio, working together in harmony. In everyday life, we are constantly building or breaking trust through small, seemingly insignificant actions. The text you reply to or ignore. The secret you guard or reveal. The promise you honor or break. Over time, these actions weave a fabric of reliability or unravel into a pattern of disappointment. Consider how this plays out in families. A child looks to a parent not only for guidance, but for consistency. When the parent says, "I'll be there," and they show up, trust deepens. When the parent says it and doesn't follow through, the foundation cracks. Years later, those cracks often echo in adult relationships, where the person may struggle to fully trust anyone. Or think about professional relationships. An employee who knows their leader will defend them in tough times feels safe enough to innovate, take risks, and grow. Without that assurance, they play small, fearing that mistakes will be punished instead of supported. Pause and ask yourself, are you someone others can trust? Not only when it's convenient, but especially when it's hard? The beauty of trust is that it's not built in grand gestures, but in simple consistencies. Returning calls, keeping promises, being on time, listening when someone speaks. These little actions stack together, forming an unshakable bond over time. And yet, many of us underestimate the power of apologies in rebuilding trust. We avoid admitting mistakes, thinking it makes us appear weak. But paradoxically, vulnerability strengthens bonds. When you say, I was wrong and I'm sorry, you're not just admitting fault, you're showing that the relationship matters more than your pride. That honesty becomes a bridge back to trust. Think about the last time someone apologized sincerely to you. Didn't it soften your heart, even if you were angry? That's the restorative power of honesty and humility. Trust also requires alignment between words and actions. Imagine someone telling you, you can count on me, but then canceling plans again and again. Words without action are empty currency. On the other hand, when words and actions match consistently, people begin to lean on you instinctively, knowing you will not let them fall. Share your thoughts in the comments who in your life has taught you the most about trust. Like this video if these ideas resonate, and subscribe for more on the psychology of connection. Now, here's something important to remember. Trust isn't built only by being flawless. It's built by being real. People don't expect perfection, but they do expect honesty. They want to know where you stand, what you value, and that your actions reflect it. Pause and ask yourself, what message are your actions sending today? Are they reinforcing the trust others place in you, or are they quietly eroding it? As we continue this journey, keep in mind that trust is the bridge from first impressions to lasting relationships. Without it, connections fade. With it, even the most fragile beginnings can grow into unbreakable bonds. But once trust is built, how do we take relationships deeper? How do we move from simply being liked to being truly influential in someone's life? That's where we're headed next, because influence, at its core, is trust in action. Chapter 4. Influence without words. Years ago, there was a study where strangers were asked to sit in silence, facing each other for just 4 minutes. No words. No instructions beyond holding eye contact. At the end of those 4 minutes, participants reported feeling surprisingly connected, even describing the experience as intimate. Some said they felt as if they had known the other person for years. That simple experiment reveals something profound. Influence doesn't always begin with what you say. Often it begins with what you don't say. Our bodies, faces, and presence communicate far louder than our words. Think about this for a moment. When you enter a room, you're already influencing how people feel before you ever open your mouth. The way you walk, the pace of your breathing, the openness of your posture. These silent signals are constantly shaping others' impressions of you. Pause and ask yourself, when people notice you, do they feel pulled closer, or do they subtly withdraw? Psychologists call this the nonverbal power of influence. In fact, studies show that when our words and nonverbal cues conflict, people trust the nonverbal over the verbal nearly every time. Imagine someone saying, "I'm fine," with crossed arms, a frown, and a sharp tone. Do you believe the words or the signals? Influence without words begins with presence. Presence is more than simply being in a room. It's how your energy fills it. You've probably met people who command attention without saying a word. Their calm confidence, steady eye contact, and ease of movement invite trust and respect. Conversely, you've likely met others whose nervous energy makes everyone uncomfortable, even if their words are kind. Consider a leader walking into a meeting. If they stride in with shoulders back, make relaxed eye contact, and sit with open posture, the room settles. People lean in, ready to listen. But if they rush in distracted, avoid eye contact, and fidget with their phone, they lose influence before the meeting even begins. Pause and ask yourself, how do you carry yourself when entering a new space? Do you radiate calm assurance, or do you unintentionally spread tension? One of the strongest tools of nonverbal influence is mirroring. Without realizing it, we often reflect the posture, expressions, and gestures of those we trust. Skilled communicators use this to build rapport. A slight lean forward when the other person leans in, a gentle smile when they smile, or a similar rhythm of gestures can create a subtle harmony. It tells the other person, we're in sync. But here's the key. Mirroring must be genuine, not mechanical. If you mimic too obviously, it feels manipulative. The true art lies in listening with your body, letting empathy guide your gestures naturally. Another powerful cue is the use of silence. Many people fear silence in conversations, rushing to fill every gap with words. Yet, silence can be one of the strongest forms of influence. A thoughtful pause after someone speaks can communicate respect and attention. A moment of quiet before you respond can make your words carry greater weight. Think about how silence feels when someone truly listens to you. Don't you feel valued, even without them saying a word? Influence also shows up in subtle touches. A reassuring pat on the shoulder, a firm but gentle handshake, or a hand placed on someone's arm in empathy. All of these, when appropriate, can deepen connection without a single syllable. Of course, cultural and personal boundaries must always be respected. But when done sincerely, physical presence can say, "I'm here with you. I care." Pause and ask yourself, when was the last time you influenced someone not through what you said, but through how you showed up? In relationships, nonverbal influence often makes the difference between closeness and distance. Think about couples. One partner may say, "I love you," but if their eyes are glued to a screen while saying it, the words fall flat. Another partner may say nothing, but hold their loved one's hand tightly during a difficult moment. And that silence speaks volumes. In business, too, influence without words shapes outcomes. Negotiators who remain calm, composed, and measured often gain the upper hand. Their silence makes the other side reveal more. Their steady posture conveys confidence. Their controlled breathing diffuses tension. Without raising their voice or arguing, they shift the balance of power. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever felt influenced by someone's presence even when they said very little? Like this video if this resonates with you and subscribe for more on the psychology of influence. Influence without words is the art of alignment, of making your presence communicate what your heart intends. When people feel that congruence, they trust you more, follow you more, and open themselves to your guidance. But nonverbal influence is just the beginning. In the next chapter, we'll explore how listening truly, deeply listening, can transform relationships and become one of the most powerful tools of connection and persuasion you'll ever master. Chapter 5. The Power of Listening. A few years ago, a young woman named Emily shared her story at a workshop I attended. She had gone through a difficult breakup, and during those painful weeks, she turned to a close friend for support. "You know what helped me the most?" she said. "It wasn't advice, it wasn't solutions. It was just that he listened. He sat with me, nodded, and let me pour my heart out without interrupting. For the first time in weeks, I felt seen." Listening, real, intentional, wholehearted listening is one of the most powerful forces in human connection. Yet it is also one of the rarest. In a world buzzing with noise, distractions, and endless scrolling, how often do we stop to truly hear another person? Pause and ask yourself, when was the last time someone gave you their full attention, without glancing at their phone, without waiting for their turn to speak, but simply listening? And when was the last time you offered that gift to someone else? Most people think of communication as a matter of speaking well, choosing the right words, telling engaging stories, making persuasive arguments. But the deepest influence doesn't come from talking. It comes from listening. When you listen fully, you give the other person the message. You matter. Your story is worth my attention. I see you. That message can change lives. Think about this for a moment. Human beings long to be understood more than to be impressed. We crave connection more than correction. And when we feel heard, we naturally trust, open up, and connect more deeply. Psychologists describe something called active listening. It's more than nodding politely or parroting back words. Active listening means leaning in, reflecting emotions, asking clarifying questions, and creating a space where the speaker feels safe to share. It means suspending judgment, resisting the urge to rehearse your response, and instead stepping into the world of the other person. Consider this simple example. A friend says, "I'm exhausted from work." A passive listener might reply, "Yeah, me too," before turning the conversation back to themselves. An active listener, however, leans in and asks, What's been the hardest part of your week? That small question opens a door to deeper connection. Pause and ask yourself, are you really listening or are you just waiting for your turn to talk? In professional life, listening can be the difference between good leaders and great ones. A manager who listens to their team doesn't just gather information, they build trust and loyalty. Employees who feel heard are more engaged, more motivated, and more willing to go the extra mile. By contrast, leaders who dismiss or interrupt stifle creativity and erode trust. In relationships, listening can heal wounds that words alone cannot. A partner who listens with presence can soothe fears, resolve conflicts, and strengthen bonds. Even when problems remain unsolved, the act of listening says, "You're not alone in this." Think about negotiations. Skilled negotiators often win, not by talking the most, but by listening the most. They pick up subtle cues, uncover hidden needs, and build rapport simply by paying attention. Silence, paired with attentive listening, often leads the other side to reveal more than they intended. But let's be honest, listening well is hard. Our minds wander. We prepare responses before the other person finishes. We get distracted by phones, emails, or even our own inner chatter. True listening requires discipline, humility, and patience. Here's a simple practice. The next time someone is speaking to you, silently repeat their words in your mind. This anchors your attention. Then, when they finish, reflect back what you heard, not as a robotic echo, but as a way of showing you understand. For example, it sounds like you've had a really stressful week and you feel overwhelmed. That reflection tells the speaker, I hear you, I get it. Pause and ask yourself, what could shift in your life if you became known as someone who truly listens? The gift of listening is not only for others, it transforms you as well. When you listen deeply, you learn more. You gain insights you would have missed. You grow in empathy, patience, and wisdom. In a world where everyone is shouting to be heard, the quiet listener becomes magnetic. People seek them out, trust them, and value their presence. Share your thoughts in the comments. Who is the best listener you've ever known, and what impact did they have on you? Like this video if you believe listening is an underrated superpower, and subscribe for more on the psychology of connection. Listening may not always give you the last word, but it will almost always give you the lasting influence. Because when people feel heard, they also feel valued. And when they feel valued, they open the door to deeper trust and connection. Now, once you've listened deeply and built that sense of safety, how do you take the next step? How do you create rapport, that invisible bond where conversations flow effortlessly, laughter comes easily, and people feel an instant sense of we belong together? That's what we'll explore in the next chapter. Chapter 6. The Art of Building Rapport. Have you ever met someone for the first time and felt an almost instant connection, as if you'd known them for years? Maybe it was the ease of the conversation, the way they laughed at the same things you did, or the comfortable silence that didn't feel awkward at all. That invisible bond, the spark of we click, is called rapport. Rapport is more than just getting along. It's the foundation of influence, trust, and cooperation. Without it, relationships remain shallow and transactional. With it, doors open, walls crumble, and conversations flow naturally. Think about this for a moment. When you have rapport with someone, time seems to fly. You feel understood, safe, and energized in their presence. When rapport is missing, even a 5-minute conversation can feel like an eternity. Pause and ask yourself, who in your life makes you feel instantly comfortable? What do they do that others don't? Rapport is built through a subtle dance of words, gestures, and energy. Psychologists call it synchrony, the way humans naturally mirror one another when they feel connected. When two people are in rapport, they lean in at the same time, smile together, and often even match breathing rhythms. It's as if their bodies are whispering, we're on the same wavelength. One powerful tool in building rapport is mirroring. When you subtly match someone's body language, tone, or pace of speech, they unconsciously feel more comfortable with you. For example, if they speak slowly and thoughtfully and you match that rhythm, they'll feel you get them. If they lean forward while speaking, and you lean in slightly too, they'll sense harmony. But remember, mirroring is not mimicry. Done too obviously, it feels fake. The key is empathy, letting their energy guide your response. Another key to rapport is finding common ground. People naturally bond over shared experiences, values, or struggles. A simple discovery. You grew up there too? Or you love that band as well, creates an instant bridge. This is why small talk, though often dismissed, can be powerful. Asking about someone's hobbies, background, or interests isn't idle chatter. It's a search for connection. Pause and ask yourself, when you meet someone new, do you focus only on impressing them, or do you look for common ground that can bring you closer? Listening, as we explored in the last chapter, also plays a central role in rapport. Nothing builds connection faster than the sense of being truly heard. When you lean in, reflect back their words, and respond with genuine curiosity, the other person feels safe. And safety is the soil where rapport grows. Think about relationships in your own life. The people you trust most are likely the ones who listen without judgment, laugh with you easily, and share your joys and struggles. That's rapport in action. Even in professional contexts, rapport is a secret ingredient for success. Salespeople who build rapport don't just sell products, they sell trust. Teachers who build rapport don't just teach lessons, they inspire students. Leaders who build rapport don't just give instructions, they create loyalty. One fascinating study found that doctors who spent just a few extra minutes building rapport with patients, by asking about their lives, listening attentively, and showing empathy, were sued for malpractice far less often, even when mistakes occurred. Why? Because patients trusted their intentions. Rapport, it seems, can even protect relationships in the face of challenges. Pause and ask yourself, how would your life change if you became skilled at creating instant rapport wherever you go? To practice rapport, start small. Match someone's tone of voice. Notice their posture and align subtly with it. Smile when they smile. Show genuine curiosity about their story. Let your body language, energy, and attention say, "We're in this together." Over time, you'll notice the difference. Conversations will feel smoother. People will open up more quickly. Conflicts will resolve more easily. And you'll begin to carry an invisible magnetism that draws others toward you. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever felt that instant click with someone? Like this video if you believe rapport is one of the hidden keys to connection, and subscribe for more on the psychology of influence. Rapport is the spark that ignites relationships. But once it's lit, how do you keep the flame alive? How do you nurture a connection so it doesn't fade after the first meeting, but instead grows into something strong and lasting? That's where we're headed next. The small, consistent gestures that deepen relationships over time. Chapter 7. Nurturing connections over time. When we think about relationships, it's tempting to focus on the exciting beginnings, the spark of a first meeting, the thrill of finding common ground, the warmth of instant rapport. But true connection is not proven in those early moments. It's proven in the quiet, ongoing rhythms that follow. Like tending a garden, relationships flourish not from a single burst of energy, but from consistent care over time. Let me share a story. Years ago, two college friends, Mark and Alex, were inseparable. They studied together, traveled together, and even dreamed of starting a business one day. But after graduation, life scattered them in different directions. Mark pursued work overseas while Alex stayed in their hometown. For years, they barely spoke. Then one day, Alex received a handwritten letter from Mark. It wasn't long or elaborate, just a note saying he valued their friendship and wanted to reconnect. That small gesture reopened the door. From that moment, they began calling regularly, visiting when possible, and eventually launched the business they once dreamed about. Pause and ask yourself, who in your life once meant the world to you but has drifted to the background? What would it take to reach out and nurture that connection again? Psychologists often point to what's called the mere exposure effect, the principle that we grow fonder of people simply through repeated interaction. Think about colleagues who became friends not because of some dramatic event, but simply because you saw them every day. Think about neighbors who grew into family over years of small, consistent conversations. The truth is, bonds deepen through rhythm, not drama. But nurturing connections is not just about frequency, it's about intentionality. Relationships thrive when we show up with presence, even in small ways. A quick text that says, "Thinking of you," a smile across the room, remembering someone's birthday or asking about their big day. These little acts weave a fabric of trust and affection that grows stronger with time. Think about this for a moment. In the digital age where likes and comments often replace real connection, what stands out most is genuine effort. A phone call instead of a text, a visit instead of a message. These efforts communicate, "You matter enough for me to give you my time." Pause and ask yourself, how often do you nurture your connections with intentional acts of care, rather than leaving them to chance? Consistency is another key. Relationships often falter not because of betrayal, but because of neglect. Friendships fade when we assume the other person knows how much they mean to us. Families grow distant when we stop creating shared experiences. Partners drift apart when daily gestures of affection are replaced by routine silence. Nurturing connections requires being proactive rather than reactive. Don't wait for anniversaries or crises to show care. Look for everyday opportunities to express appreciation. A kind word after a long day. A thank you note for something small. A habit of checking in just because. One powerful tool is the 5-minute rule. Even in the busiest days, set aside just 5 minutes to reach out to someone you value. A quick message, a short call, or even a voice note can keep the bond alive. Over time, these 5-minute investments compound into years of closeness. Pause and ask yourself, who could you take 5 minutes for today? In professional settings, nurturing relationships builds networks that last far beyond transactions. A manager who remembers to check in with their team on a personal level creates loyalty. A colleague who celebrates others' successes becomes a trusted ally. The strongest networks are not built on LinkedIn connections, but on real human care. In personal life, nurturing connections means cultivating rituals. Friday dinners with friends, annual trips with family, bedtime stories with children. These rituals become anchors, reminding us that even when life changes, love and connection remain. Share your thoughts in the comments. What's one small ritual or habit that has kept your relationship strong? Like this video if you believe consistent care is the real foundation of lasting bonds, and subscribe for more on the psychology of connection. As we nurture relationships over time, something powerful begins to happen. The small gestures accumulate and people come to rely on us, not just as acquaintances, but as confidants, partners, and friends. But relationships are not only about giving. They also test us when challenges arise. How do we handle misunderstandings, conflicts, or broken trust without losing the bond we've worked so hard to build? That's where we're headed next. Chapter 8, Healing Broken Bonds. Every relationship, no matter how strong, eventually faces moments of strain. A harsh word spoken in anger. A promise broken. A misunderstanding that grows larger with silence. These moments are inevitable because we are human, flawed, emotional, imperfect. But here's the truth. It isn't the absence of conflict that defines lasting relationships. It's the ability to heal after the conflict. Let me tell you a story. Maria and her sister Elena were once inseparable. They shared secrets, dreams, and laughter through every stage of life. But one day during a family crisis, Maria felt Elena had betrayed her trust. For months, they barely spoke. Every holiday was awkward, every phone call short. The bond they had spent years building seemed broken beyond repair. Then, one evening, Maria decided to reach out. She called Elena, not to argue, but to say, "I miss you. I don't want this to come between us anymore." That call opened the door. Slowly, through honest conversations, apologies, and patience, the sisters rebuilt their closeness. It wasn't easy, but it was worth it. Pause and ask yourself, is there someone in your life you've drifted away from? Not because the love is gone, but because pride or pain has built a wall between you. Psychologists say that when trust is broken, the injured person experiences a sense of betrayal that strikes at the very heart of the relationship. But what's equally true is this: reconciliation, when it happens, often leads to bonds that are stronger than before. Why? Because healing requires vulnerability, honesty, and effort qualities that deepen intimacy. Think about this for a moment. Every time we forgive, we send the message: you matter more than your mistake. That message is powerful enough to transform not only the relationship, but also ourselves. So, how do we begin to heal broken bonds? The first step is acknowledgement. Too often we brush over conflicts, pretending nothing happened. But unspoken hurts linger. They resurface later, sometimes in explosive ways. Healing starts when someone has the courage to say, "I was hurt," or "I know I hurt you." The second step is responsibility. Apologies that deflect blame. "I'm sorry you feel that way," do not heal. What does heal is ownership. I was wrong. I should have done better. Paradoxically, admitting weakness makes us stronger in relationships because it signals humility and sincerity. The third step is time. Forgiveness does not always mean instant trust. Rebuilding takes consistent actions that prove change. Just as trust is built slowly, it is rebuilt slowly through honesty, follow-through, and patience. Pause and ask yourself, have you ever held on to pride instead of offering an apology? What would happen if you chose humility instead? In friendships, healing often comes through small gestures. A text that says, "I miss you." A shared memory that reminds both of the bond you once had. In families, it may mean creating new rituals after old ones have been broken, finding fresh ways to say, "We still belong together." In professional life, repairing bonds can be just as important. A leader who admits mistakes and seeks feedback earns more respect than one who pretends to be flawless. A team that addresses conflicts openly becomes stronger than one that buries tension beneath forced smiles. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever experienced a relationship that grew stronger after a conflict was healed? Like this video if you believe forgiveness is a strength, not a weakness, and subscribe for more on the psychology of human connection. Healing broken bonds is not about forgetting the past. It's about choosing the future. It's about saying, this relationship is worth more than my ego, more than this mistake, more than this moment of pain. And when we choose that, we create something rare, resilient love, trust, and connection that can weather any storm. But not all influence and connection is about mending wounds. Sometimes it's about inspiring growth. In the next chapter, we'll explore how encouragement, the simple act of believing in someone, can transform lives in ways you might never imagine. Chapter 9, The Power of Encouragement. There's a story about a young boy named Thomas who struggled in school. His teachers said he was slow, distracted, and unlikely to succeed. One day, he brought home a sealed note from the school for his mother. She opened it, read it silently, and then smiled. "Your teacher says you're too bright for their classes," she told him. "They can't teach you anymore, so I'll teach you at home." Years later, Thomas Edison became one of the greatest inventors the world has ever known. The truth? That note had said something very different, that the boy was unteachable. But his mother's encouragement became the spark that lit his future. Think about this for a moment. A few words of belief can change the entire trajectory of a life. Encouragement is not just a kind gesture, it is a force that awakens potential. Pause and ask yourself, who in your life once believed in you when you didn't believe in yourself? And who today might be waiting for your words of belief? Encouragement works because it touches one of the deepest human needs, the need to feel capable and worthy. Psychology calls this self-efficacy, the belief in our own ability to succeed. When others encourage us, they loan us their belief until we can grow our own. Consider athletes. Behind every champion is a coach who said, "You can do this," even when the player doubted themselves. Consider leaders in business or politics. Many will trace their success back to a mentor or teacher who saw something in them before they saw it in themselves. Encouragement doesn't have to be dramatic. Sometimes it's as simple as saying, I'm proud of you, or I believe in you. Other times it's about pointing out strengths people don't see in themselves. A colleague might think they're just good with people, but your words, you have a gift for empathy that makes everyone feel safe, can open their eyes to a calling they never imagined. Pause and ask yourself, when was the last time you told someone what you genuinely admire about them? In relationships, encouragement strengthens bonds. Couples who cheer each other on in their goals build resilience. Friends who celebrate one another's wins. Even small ones create joy and momentum. Parents who speak life into their children shape not just confidence, but identity. One of the most overlooked aspects of encouragement is timing. The moments when someone most needs encouragement are often when they least appear to deserve it. After failure, during doubt, or in the middle of mistakes. That's when encouragement becomes not just uplifting, but transformational. Imagine an employee who has just botched an important project. The typical response might be criticism, but a leader who says, I know this was tough, but I believe you'll bounce back stronger, and I trust you to handle the next one, plants a seed of resilience. That encouragement doesn't excuse failure, it empowers growth. Think about your own life. Maybe you've made a mistake and someone said, don't worry, you've got this. Didn't that simple phrase shift your mindset from despair to determination? Share your thoughts in the comments. What's the most powerful encouragement you've ever received? Like this video if you believe words can change lives, and subscribe for more on the psychology of connection. Encouragement also works in silence. Sometimes it's not what we say, but how we show up. Sitting beside someone during their hardest days, cheering in the stands at their game, showing up to their performance or launch event. These actions speak louder than speeches. I'm with you. I believe in you. Pause and ask yourself, who in your circle might need not only your words, but your presence as encouragement right now? The beauty of encouragement is that it multiplies. When you encourage someone, they often turn around and encourage others. It spreads like ripples on water, touching lives far beyond the original moment. Encouragement is a gift anyone can give, no matter their status, wealth, or education. And yet, it's one of the most valuable gifts in the world. A single phrase at the right time can ignite courage, persistence, and even greatness. But encouragement alone is not enough. To truly empower people, we must also learn how to influence choices, to guide others not just with support, but with subtle nudges that lead them toward growth. In the next chapter, we'll explore the psychology of persuasion, the invisible levers that shape decisions every day. Chapter 10. The Psychology of Persuasion. A few decades ago, psychologist Robert Cialdini set out to study what makes people say yes. From sales pitches to political campaigns, from charity donations to everyday requests, he discovered that persuasion isn't about pushing harder. It's about pulling gently, using psychological principles that guide human behavior almost invisibly. Think about this for a moment. Every day, you are both persuading and being persuaded. You persuade your children to eat their vegetables, your colleague to back your idea, your friend to see a certain movie. At the same time, you are persuaded by advertisements, by peers, even by subtle social cues you may not notice. Understanding persuasion is not about manipulation, it's about awareness. And when used ethically, it can inspire growth, cooperation, and positive change. Pause and ask yourself, how often do you notice when you're being persuaded versus when you're persuading? One of the most powerful principles of persuasion is reciprocity. When someone gives us something, whether a gift, a compliment, or even a simple kindness, we feel an almost automatic urge to give something back. This is why restaurants leave mints with the check. It's why a friend who listens to you makes you want to listen in return. The cycle of giving and receiving keeps relationships alive. Another principle is social proof. People look to others to decide what to do, especially in uncertain situations. That's why testimonials, reviews, and popularity signals are so persuasive. When you see a long line outside a restaurant, you assume the food is good. When your peers support a cause, you feel more inclined to join. Social proof tells us, if others believe it, maybe I should too. Pause and ask yourself, what decisions have you made recently because you saw others doing the same? Authority is another subtle force. We are more likely to follow the lead of people who appear knowledgeable, confident, or credible. This doesn't mean you need to wear a white lab coat or have a fancy title. It means projecting competence and confidence in what you say. When your words and body language align with certainty, people listen. Then there's consistency. Once we make a choice, we tend to stick with it because consistency makes us feel stable and trustworthy, both to ourselves and others. This is why small commitments often lead to larger ones. A person who agrees to sign a petition is more likely to donate later. Someone who tries a small habit is more likely to adopt a bigger one. The principle is simple. Get people to take one step, and the next becomes easier. Think about this for a moment. How many of your own choices today are simply a continuation of a previous commitment you once made? Liking is also central. We are far more easily persuaded by people we like, those who show warmth, similarity, and genuine interest in us. This is why rapport is such a critical foundation for influence. When people feel connected to you, they are more open to your ideas. And finally, there's scarcity. We value what seems rare, limited, or fleeting. Only 3 left in stock. Limited time offer. Last chance to join. Scarcity makes us act quickly because we fear missing out. But beyond sales tactics, scarcity also explains why we treasure time with people who are hard to reach or opportunities that won't last forever. Pause and ask yourself, when was the last time scarcity nudged you into making a decision faster? These principles aren't just tricks. They are reflections of how the human mind naturally works. When used with integrity, they can help us inspire positive actions, encouraging someone to pursue a healthy habit, supporting a cause, or making better decisions. But when abused, they can manipulate, deceive, and exploit. The difference lies in intention. In daily life, persuasion shows up in simple moments. A teacher inspires a student to try harder. A friend convinces you to believe in yourself. A leader motivates a team to push through challenges. At its best, persuasion is not about forcing people into something they don't want. It's about helping them see possibilities they hadn't considered. Share your thoughts in the comments. Which principle of persuasion do you notice most in your own life? Like this video if you believe persuasion is part of everyday human connection, and subscribe for more insights on psychology and influence. The psychology of persuasion is about planting seeds. But once those seeds are planted, how do we communicate in a way that makes them grow? In the next chapter, we'll explore the subtle yet powerful impact of storytelling. How the stories we tell shape beliefs, inspire action, and create bonds that facts and logic alone never could. Chapter 11. The influence of storytelling. Long before books, television, or social media, human beings gathered around fires to tell stories. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were survival. They carried lessons, warnings, traditions, and wisdom from one generation to the next. Thousands of years later, our brains are still wired for storytelling. Facts inform us, but stories move us. Think about this for a moment. When was the last time you remembered a statistic? Now, compare that to the last time you remembered a story someone told you. Chances are the story stuck with you. That's the power of narrative. It speaks to the heart before the mind. Pause and ask yourself, what's one story from your life that still shapes who you are today? Storytelling influences because it creates emotional resonance. Psychologists call this transportation. When we hear a story, our brains don't just listen, they experience. Our heart rate changes, our imagination lights up, and for a few moments we live inside someone else's world. When that happens, we drop our defenses. We stop analyzing and start feeling. And feelings are what drive decisions. Consider great leaders throughout history. They didn't inspire change with numbers alone. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't say, "Here are 10 policy recommendations." He said, "I have a dream." That dream was a story, and it moved a nation. Steve Jobs didn't launch Apple by listing specs. He told the story of challenging the status quo, of creating tools for the misfits and rebels. Stories inspire because they frame facts and meaning, but stories don't have to be grand to influence. A parent sharing their childhood struggles can inspire a child to persevere. A teacher telling how they once failed can encourage students to keep going. A friend sharing a personal win can ignite hope during your hardest season. Pause and ask yourself, how often do you share stories rather than just facts when you want to inspire or persuade? There are three key elements to influential storytelling: relatability, emotion, and meaning. Relatability makes the listener see themselves in the story. When you share your own vulnerability, others think, that could be me. Relatable stories close the distance between speaker and listener. Emotion fuels the memory. People forget details, but they never forget how a story made them feel, whether it was laughter, sadness, hope, or courage. That's why advertisers often tell heartwarming or dramatic stories rather than just showcasing product features. Meaning ties the story to a larger point. A story without a message is entertainment. A story with meaning is transformation. The best storytellers guide listeners from emotion to reflection. Here's what happened, here's how it felt, and here's what it means for you. Think about a job interview. You could say, I'm hardworking and adaptable. Or you could tell a short story. In my last role, we lost 2 team members during a critical project. I volunteered to take on extra tasks, learn new skills in 2 weeks, and we still met our deadline. That experience taught me resilience. Which do you think is more persuasive? Share your thoughts in the comments. Has a story ever changed your perspective more than facts alone could? Like this video if you believe storytelling is the heart of influence, and subscribe for more on the psychology of human connection. Pause and ask yourself, what stories are you carrying right now that could encourage someone else if only you shared them? The beauty of storytelling is that it's not limited to speeches or books. Every day, in small conversations, you're telling stories about your morning, your work, your struggles. The question is, are you using them to connect, inspire, and influence? As powerful as storytelling is, it's not the only hidden force in communication. There's another that often operates in the background, shaping opinions without us even realizing it: emotional contagion. In the next chapter, we'll explore how your moods, energy, and emotions spread to others and how mastering this invisible influence can transform the way people feel around you. Chapter 12. The energy of emotions. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt the mood even before anyone said a word? Maybe the air felt heavy after an argument, or light and buzzing with laughter at a celebration. That's not your imagination, that's emotional energy, and it spreads faster than words ever can. Psychologists call this phenomenon emotional contagion. Just like a yawn ripples through a group, emotions pass from person to person in subtle, unconscious ways. Joy spreads, so does stress. Optimism can lift an entire team, while cynicism can drain a room of energy. Whether you realize it or not, you are constantly influencing others with the emotions you carry. Pause and ask yourself, what emotional energy do people feel when you enter a room? Do you leave them lighter or heavier? Think about a leader. One who walks into a meeting anxious, tense, and impatient sets the entire group on edge. Another who enters calm, optimistic, and steady reassures the team, even if the challenges are the same. The difference is not in the situation, but in the energy that leader projects. The same is true in families. Children often mirror the moods of their parents. If a parent comes home irritated, the household feels it. If the parent brings warmth and playfulness, the family atmosphere shifts instantly. We may not always control circumstances, but we can always choose the energy we bring. Pause and ask yourself, when stress hits, do you spread it or do you transform it into calm for others? Emotional contagion happens through micro-expressions, tone of voice, posture, and even breathing. When someone smiles genuinely, your mirror neurons fire, nudging you to smile back. When someone sighs heavily, your body may unconsciously tense. This is why laughter is so infectious and why panic can spread in crowds. The good news is that emotional energy can be directed intentionally. Just as negativity spreads, so does positivity. When you consciously radiate warmth, gratitude, and hope, you become a source of stability for those around you. People are drawn to those who make them feel good, not because of what they say, but because of how they feel in their presence. Consider professional environments. A team facing tight deadlines can either spiral into burnout or rise with resilience, often depending on the emotional tone set by the leader. A manager who says, "This is tough, but I know we can handle it together," and models calm determination plants courage in others. That courage ripples through the team, shaping performance. In personal life, emotional energy is the invisible glue of connection. Think about your closest friends. Chances are they're not just people you like talking to. They're people who make you feel better after spending time with them. That's the pull of positive emotional contagion. Share your thoughts in the comments. Who in your life has the kind of energy that lifts everyone around them? Like this video if you believe emotions are contagious, and subscribe for more on the psychology of human connection. Pause and ask yourself, what small shift could you make today to project the energy you most want others to feel? One simple practice is to check your emotional state before entering a room. Ask yourself, what energy am I bringing? If it's stress, take a deep breath and reset. If it's joy, let it shine through. Another practice is gratitude. Even in difficult moments, pausing to acknowledge something good grounds your energy and positivity. The more you practice, the more intentional you become in shaping the emotional climate around you. Over time, people will associate you with steadiness, warmth, and encouragement. And that reputation is one of the most powerful forms of influence you can carry. But emotional energy isn't only about presence. It also affects how people remember you when you're gone. In the next chapter, we'll explore the lasting impressions of kindness. How small compassionate acts can echo far beyond the moment, leaving behind a legacy of connection that outlives words and even relationships. Chapter 13. The Lasting Impressions of Kindness. Years ago, a man named James missed his bus on a rainy morning. Frustrated, he stood shivering at the stop when a stranger approached with an umbrella. Without saying a word, the stranger held it over James until the next bus arrived. They never exchanged names, and they never met again. But years later, James still remembered that act of kindness. He didn't remember the weather report from that day, the emails he wrote at work, or the meetings he attended. But he remembered the umbrella. Think about this for a moment. What we remember most about people is not their status, their wealth, or their cleverness. It's how they made us feel. And often, kindness is the feeling that lingers longest. Pause and ask yourself, when people look back on their encounters with you, will they remember efficiency, formality, or kindness? Kindness is more than politeness. Politeness follows rules. Kindness follows the heart. Politeness says, after you. Kindness says, let me carry that for you. Politeness is safe. Kindness is generous. And while politeness can be forgotten, kindness imprints itself on memory. Psychologists call this the peak end rule, the idea that people remember the most intense moment and the final moment of an experience. Kindness often creates both. A single compassionate act in the middle of someone's difficult day becomes the peak. A warm farewell, even after a brief meeting, becomes the end. Together, they form the lasting memory of that interaction. Consider a workplace. Employees may forget quarterly targets, but they remember the manager who stayed late to help them finish a project. Consider family life. Children may not remember every detail of what you taught them, but they remember the bedtime stories, the hugs, the times you put your phone down just to listen. Pause and ask yourself, what small act of kindness today could become a lifelong memory for someone else? One of the remarkable things about kindness is that it multiplies. A study once found that people who received an act of kindness were more likely to perform one themselves within the same day. The kindness rippled outward, touching people the original giver would never meet. A door held open becomes patience in traffic. A compliment given becomes encouragement for someone else. Kindness moves forward, often invisibly. And here's the secret. Kindness doesn't have to be grand to be memorable. A genuine smile to a stranger, a handwritten note to a friend, a word of encouragement when someone doubts themselves. These are the gestures that stay with people long after conversations are forgotten. Think about your own life. Chances are the moments that warmed your heart were not when someone gave you expensive gifts, but when they gave you presence, patience, or understanding. Share your thoughts in the comments. What's the smallest act of kindness you've ever received that you'll never forget? Like this video if you believe kindness leaves the deepest impression, and subscribe for more on the psychology of connection. Pause and ask yourself, if kindness echoes beyond the moment, how might you live differently? Knowing your smallest gestures could shape someone's lifelong memory? In the end, kindness is not just about how we treat others. It's about the legacy we leave. Titles fade, achievements are replaced, but the kindness you give outlives you, carried in the hearts of those you've touched. And kindness, when combined with authenticity, becomes even more powerful. Because people don't just want kindness, they want kindness that feels real. In the next chapter, we'll explore the profound impact of authenticity, how being true to yourself not only strengthens your influence, but also frees others to be real with you. Chapter 14. The Authentic Self. A young executive once told me about the loneliest season of her life. On paper, she was successful, high-paying job, stylish wardrobe, the image of confidence. But every day, she felt like she was wearing a mask. She laughed at jokes she didn't find funny. She pretended to agree with ideas she disagreed with. She constantly shaped herself into what she thought others wanted to see. And though she was surrounded by people, she felt utterly unseen. Only when she began to strip away the mask, speaking honestly, showing vulnerability, and admitting mistakes, did she begin to feel connected again. That is the power of authenticity. Think about this for a moment. People are not drawn to perfection, they are drawn to truth. The real you is far more magnetic than the polished mask you think you're supposed to wear. Pause and ask yourself, how often do you filter your true self in order to be accepted? And what would it feel like to be fully, unapologetically you? Authenticity is the alignment of your inner values with your outer actions. It means that who you are privately is who you are publicly. It means your words and your energy match. And when that alignment exists, people trust you. They sense honesty. They feel safe. Psychologists call this congruence, the harmony between what we say, what we feel, and what we do. When congruence is present, people may not always agree with us, but they believe us. When it's absent, even the most eloquent words ring hollow. Consider leaders. The ones we admire most are rarely the ones who never falter. They are the ones who admit when they don't have all the answers, who speak from conviction rather than convenience, who stand by their values even under pressure. That kind of authenticity inspires loyalty because it gives others permission to be authentic too. Pause and ask yourself, who in your life models authenticity, and how does it affect the way you interact with them? Authenticity is also about vulnerability. Many of us resist showing weakness, fearing it will make us less respected. Yet, vulnerability often has the opposite effect. It humanizes us. When a friend admits, "I'm scared," or a colleague confesses, "I don't know," it draws us closer, not farther. Vulnerability says, "I'm real, and I trust you enough to show it." Of course, authenticity does not mean saying everything on your mind or refusing to adapt. It's not an excuse for insensitivity. Authenticity requires wisdom, sharing your truth in a way that respects both yourself and others. It's about honesty with compassion. Think about relationships. How many couples drift apart because they stop showing their authentic selves? They hide frustrations, silence dreams, or pretend everything is fine. The relationship becomes a performance instead of a partnership. Contrast that with couples who share openly, even about hard truths. Their connection deepens because it's built on reality, not illusion. In friendships, authenticity is what transforms acquaintances into confidants. The moment you share a fear, a dream, or an insecurity, the relationship shifts from surface level to soul level. In professional settings, authenticity creates trust. A leader who admits mistakes earns more respect than one who pretends to be flawless. An employee who shares honest feedback builds credibility, even if it's uncomfortable. Authenticity clears the fog of pretense and allows real solutions to emerge. Share your thoughts in the comments. Have you ever felt a stronger connection with someone after they showed you their true, vulnerable self? Like this video if you believe authenticity is more powerful than perfection, and subscribe for more on the psychology of influence. Pause and ask yourself, what part of your true self have you been hiding? And what would it mean to bring it into the open? When you live authentically, you don't just connect with others more deeply, you also find freedom. The weight of performance lifts. The pressure to be liked fades. You realize that the people who truly matter are those who love the real you, not the performance you. And here's the beautiful paradox. The more authentic you are, the more influence you actually have. Because authenticity breeds trust, and trust breeds connection. As we move forward, authenticity leads us into one of the most profound ways we connect with others, through empathy. In the next chapter, we'll explore how stepping into someone else's shoes can transform relationships, dissolve conflict, and create bonds that transcend differences. Chapter 15. The Power of Empathy. A man once told me about a conversation that changed his life. He had just lost his job, his confidence was shattered, and he felt invisible in the world. Most people offered him advice, polite words about updating his resume, staying positive, or hanging in there. But one evening, a close friend sat beside him, put a hand on his shoulder, and simply said, "That must hurt so much. I can only imagine how heavy this feels right now." No advice, no quick fixes, just empathy. For the first time in weeks, the man felt understood. Think about this for a moment. Sometimes what we need most is not answers, but acknowledgement. Empathy is that acknowledgement. It's the ability to step into someone else's world, feel their feelings, and let them know they are not alone. Pause and ask yourself, when was the last time someone truly understood what you were going through, not by solving it, but by feeling it with you? Psychologists distinguish empathy from sympathy. Sympathy looks down from a distance. I feel sorry for you. Empathy climbs into the pit with you. I feel this alongside you. Sympathy often creates separation. Empathy creates connection. Empathy has three layers. The first is cognitive empathy, understanding what someone else is thinking. The second is emotional empathy, feeling what they feel. The third, and most powerful, is compassionate empathy, not only understanding and feeling, but also being moved to help. Consider a workplace scenario. An employee is struggling with burnout. A manager who says, "You need to work harder," destroys trust. A manager who says, "I can see you're overwhelmed. Let's figure this out together," builds loyalty. That's empathy in action. Or think about relationships. A spouse comes home exhausted and vents frustrations. One partner might respond, "You're overreacting." That dismisses their reality. Another might say, "I hear how tough today was for you. I get why you're frustrated." That validation doesn't solve the problem, but it strengthens the bond. Pause and ask yourself, how often do you listen to reply instead of listening to understand? Empathy requires presence. Too often, we rush to fill silence with solutions, but true empathy is about slowing down, listening fully, and resisting the urge to fix. It's about giving someone the gift of being seen and felt. Think about conflict resolution. Arguments escalate when both sides feel unheard. But the moment one person says, "I see where you're coming from," walls start to crumble. Even if agreement doesn't follow, empathy softens the battlefield into common ground. Share your thoughts in the comments. Who in your life embodies empathy, and how has their presence affected you? Like this video if you believe empathy is the bridge between hearts, and subscribe for more insights on psychology and human connection. Pause and ask yourself, what would shift in your relationships if, instead of offering advice first, you offered empathy first? The beautiful paradox of empathy is that it costs nothing, yet it gives everything. It doesn't require expertise or eloquence, just the willingness to pause, listen, and feel with another human being. And here's something remarkable. Empathy doesn't only comfort the one receiving it, it transforms the one giving it. When you practice empathy, your perspective widens, your compassion grows, your ability to connect deepens. You begin to see that beneath all differences, culture, background, belief, We all share the same human need to be understood. As we approach the end of this journey, one final force ties everything together: influence, trust, kindness, authenticity, and empathy all culminate in the legacy we leave behind. In the next chapter, we'll explore how to create connections that endure, bonds that outlive circumstances, distance, and even time. Chapter 16: Connections that endure. When we look back on our lives, we rarely remember the details of every conversation, every meeting, or every fleeting encounter. What we remember are the people who left footprints on our hearts: a teacher who believed in us, a friend who stood by us when others walked away, a mentor who guided us with patience, a partner who loved us through both storms and sunshine. These are the connections that endure, the ones that last beyond circumstance, distance, or even time itself. Think about this for a moment. What makes certain bonds so strong that they outlast years of silence or miles of separation? The answer lies not in grand gestures, but in consistency, authenticity, and love woven through everyday moments. Pause and ask yourself, who in your life would you call at 2 a.m. without hesitation? And who would call you? Those are the enduring connections. Enduring relationships are built on foundations we've explored throughout this journey: trust, empathy, kindness, and authenticity. But what holds them together over decades is something deeper: commitment. Not commitment in the sense of obligation, but in the sense of choosing, again and again, to invest in the relationship even when it's inconvenient, messy, or imperfect. Consider family bonds. Siblings may bicker, drift apart, or go years without speaking regularly. Yet, in times of crisis, many drop everything to be there for one another. Why? Because underneath the disagreements lies an unspoken commitment. We belong together. Or think about lifelong friendships. They may go dormant for years, but a single conversation rekindles the warmth as if no time has passed. These connections endure because they are rooted not in constant proximity, but in unconditional acceptance. Pause and ask yourself, what relationships in your life deserve deeper investment right now, so they can endure for the future? Enduring connections are also marked by resilience. They bend without breaking. They survive misunderstandings, mistakes, and seasons of silence because both sides choose forgiveness over pride and love over ego. They know that what's at stake, the bond itself, is worth more than winning an argument. One key ingredient in these connections is shared meaning. Families that create traditions, couples that build dreams together, friends that share rituals. These bonds last because they are anchored in something larger than individual moments. A holiday dinner, an annual trip, a weekly phone call. All of these become threads in the fabric of memory that holds people close. In professional life, enduring connections often show up as mentorships. A mentor who invests in someone's growth leaves an imprint that lasts long after titles and companies change. An employee who feels genuinely supported will carry loyalty for life. These relationships transcend business because they are built on humanity. Pause and ask yourself, what legacy are you creating in the hearts of those you connect with today? Share your thoughts in the comments. Who in your life has created an enduring connection with you, and why? Like this video if you believe relationships are the true measure of a life well lived, and subscribe for more insights on human psychology and growth. The beauty of enduring connections is that they ripple forward. When you nurture bonds that last, you don't just enrich your own life, you shape the lives of generations. A child who grows up feeling secure in love passes that strength to their own children. A leader who inspires loyalty influences not just one team, but everyone those team members will later lead. Enduring connections echo far beyond the moment. Pause and ask yourself, if your life ended tomorrow, what relationships would you want to have strengthened today? In the end, connections that endure are the real legacy we leave behind. Not our titles, not our possessions, but the love, trust, and kindness we've planted in the hearts of others. These bonds outlive us. They carry our influence forward, written not in books or records, but in memories, in gratitude, and in love. And so, as we close this chapter, remember this. Every smile you share, every moment you listen, every act of kindness, every word of encouragement, these are the seeds of connections that endure. Plant them daily, nurture them faithfully, and you will leave behind a garden of love that never fades. Next, in the epilogue, we'll bring this journey full circle, reflecting on what it means to live a life rich in connection, and how each of us can become a lasting force of influence in the lives we touch. As we come to the end of this journey, pause for a moment and look back. We began with the silent language of connection, the smiles, gestures, and subtle cues that speak louder than words. We walked through the power of first impressions, the fragile strength of trust, the invisible influence of presence, and the life-changing impact of listening. Together we explored rapport, nurturing bonds, healing brokenness, and the force of encouragement. We uncovered the psychology of persuasion, the art of storytelling, the energy of emotions, the legacy of kindness, the freedom of authenticity, the gift of empathy, and the miracle of connections that endure. And what do all these threads weave together? They weave a truth that is both simple and profound. Life is about connection. Not the shallow kind that comes and goes, but the kind that roots us, sustains us, and transforms us. Think about this for a moment. Every person you encounter is carrying a story you cannot see. A smile may be covering grief. A confident handshake may be hiding doubt. A sharp word may be masking pain. You may never know the full story, but you always have the power to make an impact. Pause and ask yourself, what energy, what kindness, what presence do you want to bring into the lives of those you meet? The true measure of our lives will not be how much we achieve or accumulate, but how much we connect. The people who will remember us are not those impressed by our resumes, but those touched by our empathy. They will not recall the exact words we spoke, but the way we made them feel. This book has not been about tricks or tactics. It has been about rediscovering the timeless truths of human psychology and behavior, and about remembering the power you already carry. You don't need a title, a fortune, or extraordinary talent to influence people. What you need is presence. You need authenticity. You need empathy. You need the courage to see others, to hear them, and to remind them of their worth. Share your reflections in the comments. What idea in this journey has touched you most deeply? Like this video if you believe human connection is the real currency of life, and subscribe for more insights that will guide you in building the relationships that matter most. Pause and ask yourself, if today was the beginning of a new chapter in how you connect, what would you do differently starting now? As you step forward, remember this. You have the power to change someone's day with a smile, to change someone's path with a word, and perhaps even to change someone's life with your presence. That power lives in every interaction, every moment, every choice to be intentional. May you use it well. May you carry it with grace. And may you build connections so deep, so true, and so enduring that your influence echoes far beyond your lifetime. Because in the end, the greatest switch you can ever flip is not in others, but in yourself. The moment you choose to live with openness, kindness, and authenticity, you become the kind of person people cannot help but be drawn to. That is your legacy. That is your gift. That is the life you were meant to live.